Hey everyone, my next guest is Kathryne Imabayashi from Japan, who is an inspiring entrepreneur who works from home. She's an author dedicated to making a positive impact on the lives of children, parents, and education systems worldwide. I think you're going to love her. I'm Gale Bates, and this is my series where I interview entrepreneurs from all around the world who work from home. I've been a home-based entrepreneur for over 20 years, and I understand firsthand the challenges of staying organized and managing time, and avoiding overwhelm in today's fast-paced environment. I just love how each entrepreneur I interview shares her unique journey. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do so, especially if you're interested in productivity and time management tips from entrepreneurs who work from home all around the world. And don't forget to hit the bell to be notified of all the valuable insights in my upcoming videos. So in this interview today with Kathryne, you're going to be captivated by the wisdom and practical advice that she shares with us. So get ready to take good notes. Well, hello, Kathryne. It's so lovely to have you here today. I'm really excited to hear from you about you working as an entrepreneur, working from home, and all the tips that you're going to share with us today in this series for entrepreneurs who work from home. And I'd like to kick it off with my first question to you today and talk a little about your daily routine. What happens for you when you get up, and how do you handle, and you live in a foreign country, so it's probably a little different. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your daily routine today.
Well, there's probably 2 or 3 different ways that my day starts, and it depends on how much I've slept, really. When I have something on my mind, if I'm doing an interview or if I've got a project on the go or whatever it is, I tend to wake up around 4 o'clock. So if it's one of those days, I will get up because mornings are my best time. And I will work until the sun comes up, until the sky clears. And then there's one of 2 choices. Either it's a day as soon as the sun comes up, I will go out for a walk. And I usually go out for a couple of hours. And if it's a day where I know that I need extra focus and energy on my work, then I will continue, like from 4 o'clock in the morning, I will work through until close to lunch, and then I'll go to the gym in the afternoon.
So each day is a little different. Is that right?
It's a little, yeah, it's flexible. And the only, like I have a to-do list and in my head, mostly in my head. Okay. And around that, the only thing I need to do is make sure that I also take care of my own, mental health. And that's with exercise for me.
Right. Yes. Fitting. I think that's so important as an entrepreneur who works from home. We have our to-do lists, but we must certainly make sure that we take care of ourselves with movement, which is really important, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And because you live in Japan, do you have to work around time zones and things? Because I know I do in Hawaii.
All the time. And I never assume that a schedule I make or an appointment I make is actually going to happen. Even if I take all the precautions, there's a 50-50 chance because of the time zones, something happens. Yep.
Right. Yes. But I feel like it's getting better because I feel like the world's coming closer. We are talking to people around the world more today than ever. That I just think we have to know what time zones we're in, when other people's time zones, when everybody's awake, basically.
Well, the platforms that help you with your scheduling, like Calendly, they're brilliant because I plug in my hours, but wherever the time zone is that someone else is signing up, it's in their time. So that really saves a lot of headaches.
It does. Yes. Calendly is a great tool. Yeah. And while we're talking about that, is there any other technology tools that you use that help other entrepreneurs who work from home? Do you use any kind of apps?
Well, I use Canva. Canva is like my second arm. I do everything on Canva, and I like it. Like I like that creative side of things. What I would say, something that someone told me about maybe 5 years ago, for anyone who does create like online courses or online webinars, things like that, there is a platform called MMHMM. And there's a free version to it, which is the only version that I've used. And it just makes your presentation look so professional. Like it is the best. Like when I saw someone's presentation, I asked, like it was that good. It's like, what are you using?
Yeah.
So that's one thing that if people are doing that in their business, that's a really good tool to use and very easy.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And because you do a lot of workshops in your business, right? Yes. Yeah. So, well, that's a very good tool. I'm sure people will be interested in that for sure. Okay. So, you live in a foreign country, which makes things a little different, but maybe not. How is your workspace effectively set up for you?
Well, we have a small little place, so there are not many choices as to where, I create my office space, but I have chosen to kind of park a lovely little desk table in a corner. And so that directly in front of me, to the side and behind, basically are walls.
Yeah.
But I could just move my head this much, and there's a big floor length window. And that window overlooks a very quaint bay. So I can totally focus because I don't have distractions in front of me or beside me or behind me. And when I need that break to kind of, take a breath again, I just need to look to my left. And so for me, it's a perfect workspace.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful. So it's giving you the space to be creative and yet focus at the same time,
Yes.
right? Yes. I love that. That's wonderful. How long have you been in business?
4 years now. 4 years.
Okay, wonderful. And so have you found that there are any specific challenges being, in business as an entrepreneur working from home? Any, too many interruptions, or what have you found that is being kind of a challenge for you, and how do you overcome it?
I think the two biggest ones, the first biggest one, which I will give myself credit that it's not as much of a challenge now, but was simply the technology. Like having to figure out how to do everything when that had not been part of my world before 4 years ago. So technology was definitely a challenge, but it has gotten better.
And how have you overcome that? What steps have you taken to overcome that?
A couple of things. Like I am very, I love to learn things. And so I will know that I've got some, and now with Chat GTP, it's like, Google I relied on before. Now I've got Chat GTP, and so I can get I can get answers faster and more geared to exactly the question I'm asking. I learn, I try things out myself, and I have an adult son who is techie. And but he's also really good because he doesn't just tell me how to do it. Like he will give me the steps the first time and then say, give it a try, Mom, see how you do. He won't do it for me, which is a good way for me to learn how to do it. But he's always there when I'm absolutely frustrated with the technology part of it. So that's that challenge. The biggest challenge that I still struggle with is working too long, working too hard. And I'm hoping now that the first 4 years are over and I've, all the things are in place. But that's been my biggest focus that I had to be careful about, is just having that balance, like not giving everything I have in all my, functional hours of the day to work, that I keep some of it for my own, soul.
How do you overcome that? I mean, I know I can't sit for longer than an hour. I have to get up and move around. And sometimes, some days when I have a big project going on, I have to set a timer. And I use a method called the Pomodoro technique. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
It's a technique where you focus for 25 minutes. and then you get up and move around for 10 minutes, and then you come back for another 25 minutes. You have to turn off all notifications so that you're not interrupted. And I find that's very helpful for me. What do you do to make sure that you don't work too long? Any specific things?
I would say that I have had more failures than successes because I can sit down and if I have an agenda in my mind, I can get lost in it and
Mm,
hours go by. So, what I consciously do, both for health benefits and to make sure that I'm getting up in intervals, is I'm drinking constantly.
right.
So,
Yes.
you can only drink so much, and then you have to get up and go to the
Right.
washroom and
Right.
fill up your glass again. And
Right.
so it's not quite as professional or organized as your way, but it does get me up. Otherwise, I would forget. I can stay there for hours and be lost in what I'm doing.
And I think that's so important as an entrepreneur working from home. We have to be aware of these things because we are our own bosses, right?
Yes.
Don't have anybody saying it's time for you to move or it's time for you to get up or it's time to work, you know. And I think so it sounds to me like you're paying attention to it
Yeah.
and working on it, which, you know, nobody's perfect. We're all doing exactly the same thing as entrepreneurs working from home. So, which brings me to, do you have any kind of like start of day routine or end of day routine or any kind of other routines that helps you stay focused on your work?
Well, like I said, the morning is my golden time.
Right.
And
Love that.
so
Open time. Yeah.
I maximize that.
Yeah.
And if I'm really good, I will try to finish, the really important mind things I need to do before lunch.
Yeah.
And then in the afternoon, I will mostly do things like Canva, like designing on those things, social media, things that are they still take time, but I don't need to use my brain so much. Like, and I
Right.
have fun doing them. So
Creative fun things. Yeah.
yeah, I guess mostly that's what it is. Because what I find is that if I'm not mindful of that difference in my capabilities and optimal time usage, what happens for me is that I will, like in the morning, if I know I'm really, I need to get this done and I need to really focus, I will turn off all my notifications and just have that up on the screen.
Yeah.
But if it's like at the end of the day and I'm, thinking, okay, I'll just do, one more of this or one more of this, and I don't turn off my things, my notifications, and I can again be there for an hour, hour and a half, and I've only really gotten maybe 20 minutes of quality work done because I lose focus. I hear that ding and I say, oh, maybe that's something I need to know about right now. And it's really a wasting time for me.
I think that is probably one of the biggest challenges all of us have in working from home is those notifications, those dings, and how handling them. How can we ignore them?
Yeah.
We can either turn them off, or we can be very strong and not look at them. I think it's part and parcel of working alone from home in our life. You know, it's in everyday life, I guess, is what I'm trying to say here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you set any kind of boundaries for yourself,
In time wise?
time wise, or in your business? Any kind of boundaries that might help another entrepreneur who works from home?
Well, as far as setting up appointments and things,
Yeah.
I really try to do them first thing in the morning because that's where I'm best if I'm going to do interviews
Right.
or something like that. Um, so that's a big factor for me. I am not as successful at the end of the day trying to articulate
Oh, I
and
totally agree on that.
yeah.
Yeah, morning time
Um,
is much better.
yeah, it is.
So we've talked a little bit about technology and we've talked a little about time. Let's talk a little bit about connections because obviously, as I said, you live in a foreign country. I live on an island. You know, connecting and collaborating, I feel, is really important as an entrepreneur working from home. We have to make the effort. And there are certain things that I do. What do you do to combat isolation and connecting with others?
Well, I don't think I understood how important that was initially. And because I was just starting up, I mean, I would go on trainings and things like that, online trainings and that kind of thing. But it's only been, maybe in the last 2 years that I really realizing I'm losing my energy. I'm losing my motivation, even though I know my why. I believe in what I'm doing. I'm passionate about it. All of those things. But what was missing for me is the energy I get from clients, from other people who understand the world that I'm in right now. So it was about a year and a half ago that I started tapping in being guests on podcasts. And that opened a whole, because I've listened to podcasts forever. They're one of my biggest ways of learning things, of matching what my emotional needs are. I'll match it to a particular podcast when I need it. But being a guest on these shows connected me to people all over the world in all different categories, like because I was practicing basically being on podcasts. And it really started to fill my soul. And so I'm in the process now of starting my own and talking to parents on that. Right. And even in just the 2 weeks of doing some interviews with parents, that sense of connection and has been like, it just fills me. And because of not having the stimulation of colleagues, going into work and having that stimulation, this is the first time that it felt like I've got it. Even though I'm here, I'm by myself, that spot is being filled. And the collaboration part of it, again, I because I was just starting out, I figured I was in the beginning. I thought, well, who's going to want to collaborate with me? And then I have had 2 very wonderful opportunities, one ongoing, and being able to collaborate with somebody who, for example, in the businessing marketing area, they are so far down the road compared to where I am, and having them take me by the hand basically and support me and help me learn what I need to be successful. And on the flip side, me being so further down on the parenting field and the understanding about boys field, and being able to share that with them so that it really was collaboration, not just mentorship. And so it's been podcasts for me. Podcasts have been a saving grace.
And what's your favorite? Can you name a couple of favorite podcasts that you would recommend?
See, people ask me that, and I can't answer, because if, like, on my phone, like, I must have 20 shows that and still I end up in the morning before I go out for the walk, because I'm out for about 2 hours. So depending what is foremost in my mind. Right. If I'm really focused on, okay, I've got a new podcast going, what's that all about? What do I need to learn? I'll get a whole bunch of podcasts to listen to in those 2 hours. Yes. If I am feeling depleted spiritually, I will find podcasts that will motivate me and inspire me. It's not just one podcast. I mean, I've got my favorites. Like, I like what's it called? The Diary of the CEO and some of the other big ones. I love the learning part of it. Right. But I really match the podcast to what my emotional need is on that day.
I love that. That's kind of similar to what I do. Yes, because I'm an early morning walker as well, and I listen to podcasts on my walk as well. And it is depending on the mood. So you've described that really well. I think a lot of entrepreneurs who are listening to this would feel the same way in finding what you need to learn for the day in a nice, calm way, walking and exercising. And to me, I call it, I go into a zone, I have to pay attention to the road sometimes. So I don't, in case I don't see a car coming or something. But I love that. That's great. And what is the name of your podcast?
It's called Unlocking the Parenting Code.
Oh, great. And could you tell us a little bit more about it?
It's anywhere between 30 minutes and an hour. And it's the gist behind it is that parents have such wisdom. And so it's tapping into parents who are in the throes of parenting right now
Mhm.
and talking about some of their challenges, some of the ways that they have strategies they've used to overcome those, certain issues, and just bringing to a highlight how much wisdom parents have. Like, it's funny because quite a lot of people responded to my call out as the experts. And it's kind of, I'm an expert in my field too, but that's not this time. And
Right,
it was trying to say, I know you're an expert, but I want the mom.
right,
I want the mom who's in the thick of it right now.
right,
And
right.
so those conversations have been just amazing. Like very, very interesting and meaningful, I believe.
Great. Well, we will put the link to that podcast down in the description below so we make sure others know about it as well.
Well, thank
While
you.
we're on this subject, how do you continue to invest in yourself with professional development? Do you do a lot of online courses? Do you have any resources that you would recommend for professional development as well?
I've always got my ears open.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and some colleagues or collaborators or other entrepreneurs who I know well, they will also pass on, they'll say, oh, well, there's this, 4-day challenge right now, or there's this new thing that's come out. And so it's often word of mouth, but sometimes it's just I see something on a thread and some advertising. And
Yeah.
if it's exactly what I'm looking for, because there are times when I don't want any more. Like
Right.
I think that sometimes you need to take a break from that and do the action.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can just
Yeah.
keep learning and learning and not
Yes.
doing.
That is such great advice. I totally agree with that. Yes.
Mm.
So, I mean, because, there are so many facets of being an entrepreneur. Like there's marketing, right? There's time management. There's productivity. There's so many facets of being an entrepreneur working from home that you can focus completely on marketing and keep learning. But are you implementing what you're learning, basically, right?
Yeah,
Yes. So
exactly.
that's what I'm saying. That's such great advice for people as well.
Well,
Um,
and if there was one other piece of advice about professional development and that kind of support, like I had heard it before and I've always like I'm very independent and self-sufficient. I thought I can do it myself. I can learn. I can like and I thought, because we have such a vast amount of information, we can figure anything out and I really did think that and I don't anymore.
right.
I have seen both the value of having a coach, whether
Mhm.
it's been an investment or it's been just something that happened organically or as a give and take kind of thing, and also being a coach. Like I I've worked with parents who they've done all the things. They've read all the books, they've
And
taken the courses, they've done everything. And what they need is a person who's further down the road to
right.
hold their hand, give them some tips and tricks that are going to make life
Mhm.
better. And it's
Mhm.
the same thing with the business coaches,
Yes.
you know, and if you can't afford to get one, then
Yes.
find a way to collaborate with somebody
Right.
and, kind of, almost like the old barter things, I've got this, you've got that, let's learn from each other. But
Right.
that personal investment in each other, I
Yes.
think that is the critical point.
I think I totally agree with you. You have to have that kind of input coming from a different perspective, I think,
Mhm.
more than anything. Because sometimes, as a coach, you think, well, I'm a coach, I coach myself, right? But it
Yes,
doesn't work that way, right?
it doesn't.
No,
No.
no, yeah. Yes, no, I'm totally really agree with everything that you're saying there. And I think that's again such great advice that if anybody's watching today to really take that and notice that as well.
Mhm.
So I always ask this question, work-life balance. How do you maintain a healthy work-life balance working from home?
It's a challenge,
Mm,
and I think it has to be something that's intentional. And I think when you can set up some boundaries, like one of my boundaries is either walking or going to the gym. It's non-negotiable.
right.
I don't function optimally without that. You have to be intentional
Yeah,
because if you're not, it's like, where did the day go? How come I'm still sitting in my pajamas in front of the computer? And why do I feel like crap? And how come what should have taken 2 hours has now taken me eight?
yeah.
So
Do you work from a to-do list or how do you make that happen?
um, I have a little bulletin board, a little cork board that's right beside me, and I have little like little cards, little tiny cards, and I write the things on it so that I don't forget what I need to do. But it's not so much the only thing that would be to do is if I have appointments that day. That's
Right,
the only thing that goes on the calendar, and
right,
everything else is on the cork board. So,
right.
and there's nothing quite as joyful as taking one of those off and, knowing that that's
It's
done.
Well, I love that. That's a great way to do that little cork board with a little 3x5 card. Are they three
Yeah,
by five cards? Yeah, I
yeah,
love that. And when it's done, you throw it away. Is
I
that right?
do. I recycle it. Yeah.
Or recycle it, of course. Yes, I love that. Okay, well, I think you've given some wonderful pieces of advice here today. Can you share with me why you love being an entrepreneur?
Well, I know people have different answers, and it's often connected with different kinds of freedom. I would say I love being an entrepreneur for two reasons. It gives me a sense of purpose because I am in control of how much time, effort, and passion I am putting into what my mission is. I don't have to be on anybody's clock. I don't have to follow the rules. Um, I know what my why is, and I can follow through on that. And the other part that I like about it is that I can be so flexible. If I, take stock of things and I think, well, I gave that a really good run,
Mhm.
it's done. I need to, pivot, try something else. And I love that flexibility. So those
Mhm.
would be the two areas that
Yeah,
really make it something that's wonderful.
I think that's wonderful. That's again, people who entrepreneurs who are listening or watching this will totally agree with you
Mhm.
on how they feel about that as well. So, tell us a little bit about your business. Tell us a little bit about where people can connect with you and what kind of services you offer.
I'm a parent of boys coach, so I support and guide parents to understand the inner emotional world of their boys and the society, the world that they're living in, and help them with their communication and their connection so that it's a better experience for the whole family. I have a website. It's called sonhoodcoaching.com, SON.
Mhm.
And on the website, there's all the social links. I'm active on LinkedIn, Instagram, a little bit on Facebook and YouTube. I have a vault of online courses of various lengths and breadths and topics. I have a
Mhm.
membership that has its own little world. I just published a parenting book this spring called Raising Boys Who Become Remarkable Men.
And is that on Amazon?
It is
Okay.
Amazon, Barnes and Noble,
Okay.
all the book places.
Right.
So basically everything is found on that website. There's one section on the website that says free resources.
Okay.
And there are 3 or 4 resources for parents, mostly parents raising boys, and they're free for the grab. And I hope people will take those and make use of them. There's
Right.
also for the podcast, there is a separate page for the parenting podcast and the parenting quiz. So really everything is on the website.
Okay, well, we will put all of those links in the description below, okay, to make sure you can get up in the morning and say, I want to listen to this podcast today about parenting, okay?
I hope that it will be out. Like, I hope within 2 or 3 weeks that the first episodes will be published.
Oh, wonderful. Excellent. Wonderful. Well, Kathryn, thank you so much. This has just been so interesting. And I know that you have, shared some very wise words today to help other entrepreneurs who work from home. And that's what this series is all about. So I really want to thank you for being on today.
Thank you very much for having me, Gale, and giving me an opportunity to talk about this. I appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed Kathryn's wise words in today's interview. So if you're a course creator, she shared a fantastic resource, and I'd loved how she explained the way she uses ChatGPT in her business, which I found very insightful. And I was particularly impressed by her decision to become a guest on a podcast, which opened up a whole world of connections for her and eventually led to her starting her own podcast. And her advice on work-life balance, especially her intentional approach to setting non-negotiables and sticking to her schedule, wow. So my question for you today is, what is your one non-negotiable that you use to maintain your work-life balance while running your business from home? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe for more interviews in this series, and I'll see you on the next video.